The steady beep of the sensor array broke the quiet routine aboard the Earth Space Command vessel Horizon. Tom Reed, the night shift operator, almost spilled his coffee as he studied the readings. His eyes widened at the unusual energy pattern appearing on his screen. "Control, this is Sensor Station. I'm picking up something weird out past Pluto's orbit," Tom said into his headset. "It's like nothing I've seen before." The Night Watch commander, Lisa Black, walked over to his station. She frowned at the display, her gray hair reflecting the blue glow of the monitors. "Send it to main analysis. Wake up the science team." Within an hour, the Horizon's command center was buzzing with activity. Captain James Miller stood at the main viewport, his weathered face illuminated by the distant stars. The readings showed 15 massive objects, each one bigger than the largest ships humanity had ever built. "What do we know?" Miller asked, turning to face his crew. Ann Walker, the ship's chief engineer, stepped forward. Her dark skin contrasted with the white of her uniform as she pulled up a holographic display. "They're ships, sir, but they're dead in space. No engine output, minimal power readings. And," she paused, double-checking her data, "we're detecting thousands of life signs on each vessel." Miller nodded slowly. Humanity had wondered about alien life for centuries. Now they had found it, but something was clearly wrong. "Take us in closer, but keep our shields up. Standard first contact protocols." The Horizon moved carefully toward the alien fleet. As they got closer, the ships became visible through the viewport. They were beautiful in a strange way, crystal-like structures that should have sparkled in the sunlight, but instead looked dim and lifeless. "Sir," Walker called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's weak, but our computers are starting to decode it." The bridge speakers crackled to life. The sound was like wind chimes mixed with static, but slowly the ship's AI translated it into words. "Help. Power failing. Refugees from dying star. Cannot process local solar radiation." Miller made his decision. "Send back that we're here to help. Walker, prepare a boarding team. Full environmental suits. We don't know what their atmosphere is like." The first contact team assembled in the airlock. Walker checked her suit's seals one last time as Miller briefed them. "Remember your training. No sudden moves. Universal greeting protocols. We're here to help, but stay alert." Their shuttle docked with the largest alien ship. As the airlock cycled, Walker's suit sensors showed the air inside was breathable, but very cold. They moved forward, lights from their suits cutting through the dim interior. That's when they saw them. The bright ones, as humans would later call them, were unlike anything they had imagined. Standing about 7 feet tall, their bodies were semi-transparent and crystalline, with complex patterns of light moving through them like blood through veins. But the lights were faint, flickering weakly. One of the aliens stepped forward. Its movement was graceful but seemed tired. Through their suits' translators, they heard, "We thank you for coming. We are dying. Our ship's power systems were designed for our home star's energy signature. Here, so far from any compatible star, we cannot process enough energy to survive." Walker studied her readings. The aliens' bodies appeared to be natural solar collectors, but they were designed for a different type of star than Earth's sun. Without the right kind of light, they were slowly starving. Miller stepped forward, his voice calm and reassuring through the translator. "We're from Earth. We have experience with solar power and energy conversion. If you'll let us, we want to help." The aliens' inner lights pulsed slightly brighter. "You would help us. We are strangers to you." "That's what humans do," Miller replied simply. "We help people in trouble. Now let's figure out how to keep your people alive." As they began their work, none of them knew they were starting a chapter that would change both their civilizations forever. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be marked by war or fear, but by a simple act of helping those in need. The next 12 hours aboard the alien flagship were a blur of activity. Ann Walker and her engineering team had spread out their equipment across what appeared to be the ship's main control center. The crystalline walls pulsed with weak light as the bright ones moved around them, their forms casting strange shadows. "These readings are amazing," Walker said, studying her tablet. She turned to First Light, the alien technical expert who had been assigned to work with them. "Your bodies naturally convert light into energy, but you're getting less than 10% of what you need from our sun." First Light's inner lights flickered in what they had learned was a sign of agreement. "Our home star was what you would call a blue giant. Your yellow sun." The alien's lights dimmed slightly. "The wavelengths are wrong. We cannot process them efficiently." Captain Miller watched from nearby, taking notes as the teams worked. The situation was worse than they had first thought. The bright ones weren't just stuck. They were slowly starving to death. "How many of your people are aboard these ships?" Miller asked. "We carry 42,000 souls," First Light responded. "We are all that remains of our civilization. When our star began to die centuries before schedule, we had to leave with little preparation." The humans in the room fell silent. 42,000 refugees, an entire civilization's survivors, slowly dying in the cold of space. The weight of the situation pressed down on them all. Walker's team had set up energy monitoring devices throughout the ship. The data flowing back painted a grim picture. "Their solar collection systems are incredibly advanced," she explained to Miller, pointing to her screens. "But they're tuned to specific wavelengths we don't have. It's like trying to fuel a car with orange juice instead of gasoline." One of Walker's junior engineers, Tom Reed, had been quiet for a while, staring at the alien ship's power core. "What if we—" he started, then paused, checking his calculations. "What if we modified our quantum dot technology? We use it in our solar panels to convert sunlight into electricity. Maybe we could tune it to convert our sunlight into their specific wavelengths." First Light moved closer, inner lights pulsing with interest. "This technology, you can change the wavelength of light." "Theoretically," Walker said, already running simulations. "But we'd need to build converters bigger than anything we've ever made. And we'd need to make them perfect. One wrong wavelength could poison us rather than feed us." First Light finished. "But we have no choice. Our emergency reserves will last another 32 days at most. After that." Miller stepped in. "I need to report this to Earth Command. Walker, keep working on the calculations. First Light, we'll need everything you can tell us about your energy requirements." As Miller headed back to the horizon to make his report, he passed through corridors filled with bright ones. Many were dimmer than First Light, their lights barely flickering. Children, smaller crystals with simpler light patterns, huddled close to the adults. Despite their alien appearance, the scene was heartbreakingly familiar. These were refugees, families who had lost everything, hoping for help from strangers. Back on the horizon, Miller's report to Earth Command was direct and urgent. "We have a chance to save them, but we'll need resources. A lot of them. And we need them fast." The response from Earth was cautious. "Captain, this is an unprecedented situation. The resources required would be enormous. The Security Council needs time to debate the implications." Miller felt his jaw tighten. "With respect, sir, we don't have time for debates. We have 42,000 people dying out here. Yes, they're aliens. Yes, they're different from us. But they need help, and we can give it." He paused, then continued with determination. "I'm formally requesting emergency powers under Article 7 of the Space Rescue Treaty. These ships are in distress, and we have a duty to help." There was a long silence from Earth. Finally, "Granted, Captain. But this is on your head if anything goes wrong." Miller looked out his viewport at the crystal ships, their surfaces barely glowing now. "Understood, Command. We won't let them down." Miller out. He turned and headed back to the alien ship. They had work to do, and not much time to do it. The main engineering lab of the horizon had turned into a non-stop workshop. Ann Walker hadn't slept in 30 hours, but she couldn't stop now. Scattered across the tables were pieces of quantum dot arrays, experimental light converters, and dozens of failed prototypes. First Light stood nearby, its crystalline form dimmer than the day before. The alien watched as Walker assembled another test unit. "Your determination is remarkable," First Light said. "Most species we encountered in our journey simply offered sympathy and moved on." Walker didn't look up from her work. "Well, we're not most species." She connected the last wire and powered up the device. "Ready for test 47. The small quantum converter hummed to life. A beam of converted light struck a small crystal sample they were using for tests. For a moment, the crystal glowed brightly, then cracked with a sharp ping. "Damn it." Walker slammed her hand on the table. "Still too intense. We're getting the wavelength right, but the energy density is all wrong." Tom Reed walked in with fresh coffee for the engineering team. "What if we're thinking about this backward?" he asked, setting down the cups. "We're trying to make our technology match theirs, but maybe we should be learning from how their bodies do it naturally." First Light moved closer, inner lights pulsing with interest. "Explain." Reed pointed to First Light's crystalline form. "Your bodies don't just absorb light. They process it through layers. Could we build something similar?" Walker's tired eyes suddenly widened. "Multiple conversion stages," she said, already reaching for her tablet. "Instead of trying to make one perfect conversion, we make several small adjustments." Her fingers flew across the screen as she ran new simulations. First Light leaned in to study the calculations, its lights brightening slightly. "Yes, yes. Like our growth rings. Each layer refines the energy further." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Walker's team rebuilt their converter with multiple quantum dot layers, each one tuned to slightly different wavelengths. First Light provided critical data about their biology, helping the humans understand exactly how the bright ones processed light. "Test 53 ready," Walker announced. The room fell silent as she activated the new device. The converted light struck the crystal sample. This time, it began to glow steadily, the light patterns inside matching those they had seen in healthy bright ones. The crystal didn't crack. First Light's whole body lit up with excitement. "It works. The wavelength conversion is perfect." But Walker wasn't celebrating yet. "We did it for a small crystal. Now comes the hard part." She pulled up a hologram showing the massive size of the alien ships. "We need to scale this up about 1,000,000 times and build 15 of them." Captain Miller arrived just then, looking concerned. "How's our progress?" "Earth Command is getting nervous about the resources we're requesting." Walker showed him the successful test results. "We can save them, Captain. But we'll need every quantum dot factory on Earth working around the clock. And we'll need to build massive focusing arrays for each ship." Miller nodded slowly. "The cost will be astronomical," Walker finished. "But we're talking about saving an entire civilization." First Light spoke up, its voice carrying an emotion the humans hadn't heard before. "We can trade technology. Knowledge. Our understanding of light manipulation alone could advance your science by centuries." "That's not why we're doing this," Miller said firmly. "We're doing it because it's right." He turned to Walker. "How long to build the full-scale converters? If we get everything we need." 2 weeks to build and test." "But Captain," she hesitated, "some of their people are very weak. They might not have 2 weeks." Miller's face hardened with determination. "Then we'll work faster. I'll have the Horizons fabricators running at maximum capacity, and I'll call in every favor I have on Earth." He looked at First Light. "We're not losing anyone. Not on my watch." As Miller left to make his calls, Walker turned back to her work. They had solved the technical puzzle, but now they faced an even bigger challenge, building the impossible in an impossibly short time. First Light watched the humans work, its inner lights pulsing with a mix of hope and amazement. These humans, who had every reason to turn away from such a massive undertaking, were instead pushing themselves to their limits to help strangers from the stars. The command center of Earth Space Station Alpha was filled with arguing voices. On the main screen, Captain Miller stood firm, his image transmitted from the horizon. Around the conference table, Representatives from major world powers debated the cost of the rescue operation. "The resource drain is too high," said one official, shuffling through reports. "We're talking about shutting down civilian power stations to produce these converters." Miller's patience was wearing thin. "While we debate, they're dying. 3 bright ones faded away yesterday. 2 of them were children." The room fell silent for a moment. Then another official spoke up. "We sympathize, Captain, but we need time to properly evaluate." "We don't have time." Miller's voice cut through the chamber. "I've already diverted the Horizon's power systems to support the weakest ship, but it's not enough." He took a deep breath. "I'm going to help them, with or without official approval. If you want to court-martial me later, fine." Back on the Horizon, Ann Walker's engineering team worked frantically. They had converted their own power systems to feed energy to the alien ships, but it was like trying to fill an ocean with a garden hose. "Power levels on Alien Ship 5 are critical," Tom Reed reported, his voice tense. "They got maybe 12 hours left." Walker looked at the readings, then at First Light, who had grown noticeably dimmer. "We can't wait for Earth. We need to try something else." She turned to her team. "Strip down everything we don't absolutely need. Life support to minimum levels. Redirect all power to the converters." First Light's voice was weak but concerned. "You would risk your own ship." "We're not watching anyone else die," Walker said firmly, already pulling panels off the walls to access power circuits. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Horizon's crew worked in cold, dim conditions as every spare bit of power was diverted to keep the alien ships alive. Emergency lights cast long shadows through the corridors as engineers ran back and forth, carrying parts and tools. Miller walked through his ship, checking on his crew. Despite the freezing temperatures and minimal lighting, not one person complained. In the mess hall, off-duty crew members huddled under blankets, sharing body heat and hot drinks, yet their determination never wavered. "Captain," a young engineer stopped him. "I had an idea. Our personal tablets, they all have quantum processing cores. If we collect them all, maybe we could." Miller nodded. "Do it. Collect every device on board. Anything that could help." Word spread through the ship. Crew members handed over their personal devices without hesitation. Walker's team worked to integrate these small processors into their makeshift conversion system. In the alien ships, the situation grew more desperate. The bright ones gathered in central chambers, sharing what little energy they had left. Their bodies, once brilliant with inner light, now barely glowed. Then something unexpected happened. The Horizon's communication officer burst into the command center. "Sir, we're getting signals from Earth. Thousands of them." News of the alien refugees' plight had leaked to the public. Social media exploded with messages of support. People around the world were demanding action. "Private companies are offering resources," the officer reported, reading incoming messages. "Solar farms are volunteering to redirect power. Space agencies worldwide are mobilizing." Miller allowed himself a small smile. "Patch me through to Walker." In the engineering bay, Walker was elbow-deep in circuitry when Miller's message came through. "Help is coming," he said, "but we need to keep them alive until then. Whatever it takes." Walker looked at her team, then at First Light. "We'll keep them alive, sir, whatever it takes." First Light's dim form seemed to straighten. "You risk everything for us. Why?" Walker paused in her work, thinking about how to explain. "Because that's what humans do. When we see someone in trouble, we help. It doesn't matter if they're from another country or another star. We help." Outside the Horizon, the massive alien ships hung in space, their crystalline surfaces barely reflecting the distant sunlight. But inside both human and alien vessels, hope began to grow stronger than the darkness. The race against time wasn't over, but humanity had chosen its side. They would save these refugees from the stars. no matter the cost. The sky over the Nevada desert lit up as another convoy of trucks arrived at the emergency construction site. What had been empty land 3 days ago now bustled with activity. Massive fabrication units worked nonstop, producing the specialized quantum converters designed by the Horizons team. Ann Walker stood in the makeshift control center, coordinating with teams worldwide. Screens showed similar sites in China, India, and Europe, all working together in an unprecedented global effort. Beijing facility reports their first converter is ready for testing, Tom Reed announced, looking up from his station. They're ahead of schedule. Walker nodded, checking her tablet. Good. We'll need every minute we can get. She turned to First Light, who had been brought to Earth to help oversee the construction. The alien's glow was dangerously dim now, but determination kept it moving. These facilities, First Light said, watching the screens. Your people built them in days. Amazing what humans can do when we work together, Walker replied. The hard part will be getting everything into space quickly enough. As if answering her concern, a deep rumble shook the ground. Outside, a massive cargo rocket lifted off, carrying the first completed converter. More rockets stood ready on other launch pads, waiting their turn. In orbit, the Horizon coordinated the assembly efforts. Captain Miller watched through the viewport as space tugs maneuvered the first converter into position near one of the alien ships. All hands, this is the captain. Miller's voice echoed through both human and alien vessels. First converter deployment in 5 minutes. This is what we've been working for. Walker's voice came over the comm from Earth. Power systems ready. Beginning initialization sequence. Everyone held their breath as the huge device powered up. Complex arrays of quantum dots began to shift and align, catching sunlight and transforming it. The converted energy struck the alien ship's surface. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the crystalline hull began to brighten. Inside the ship, the weakest bright ones, who had been barely clinging to life, started to glow stronger. It's working. Walker's excited voice filled the comm. Power conversion at 92% efficiency. Better than our simulations. First Light's own glow brightened as it watched the readings. The wavelength match is perfect. Our people are absorbing the energy correctly. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity as more converters arrived from Earth. Space crews worked in shifts, racing to deploy each device as it arrived. The bright ones who regained strength joined the effort, their natural ability to manipulate light helping to fine-tune each installation. Miller watched from the Horizon's bridge as one by one, the alien ships began to glow brighter. The sight reminded him of sunrise on Earth, darkness giving way to light, death retreating before life. In the largest alien ship, Walker and First Light monitored the power readings. Young bright ones, their lights now strong and steady, crowded around the humans who had saved them, curious about their saviors. Power levels stabilizing across all ships, Walker reported. We did it. We actually did it. First Light's form now shone brilliantly, its voice filled with emotion. In our long history, we never encountered a species who would work so hard to save strangers. Your people emptied their private power reserves, sacrificed their resources, just to help us. Walker smiled, watching the young aliens play with light beams, creating beautiful patterns in the air. That's the thing about humans. We're not perfect. We argue. We make mistakes. But when we see someone in trouble, she gestured at the scenes of humans and bright ones working together on the screens. This is who we really are. Above Earth, 15 crystal ships now glowed with healthy light, their surfaces refracting the sun's rays in dazzling patterns. Emergency response teams from around the world continued to launch supplies and additional converters, ensuring the rescue wasn't temporary but permanent. Humanity had done more than save a species. They had shown that the values of compassion and help transcend planetary boundaries. As news of the successful rescue spread across Earth, people looked up at their sun with new eyes, knowing that its light now gave life to 2 civilizations. The impossible had been accomplished. not through warfare or competition, but through cooperation and determination. Humanity had passed its first major test as a spacefaring civilization. News stations worldwide broadcast the same incredible images: 15 crystal ships glowing like new stars in Earth's orbit. The sight had brought people into the streets, all looking up at the same sky, sharing the same sense of achievement. In New York, massive screens in Times Square showed live feeds from space. In Beijing, crowds gathered in public squares to watch. In Mumbai, children sat on their parents' shoulders, pointing at the bright spots moving across the night sky. "Look at this," Captain Miller said, showing First Light the video feeds from Earth. They stood in the horizon's observation deck, watching the celebrations. "I've never seen the world so united." First Light's glow pulsed with fascination. "Your cities shine so differently now. When we first arrived, they were dimmer. That's because every major power grid on Earth diverted energy to help build the converters," Miller explained. "People accepted rolling blackouts without complaint. They knew it was for a good cause." Down in the horizon's engineering bay, Ann Walker was leading a different kind of celebration. Human engineers and bright ones gathered around holographic displays, sharing technical knowledge. The aliens' mastery of light manipulation was revolutionary, while human quantum technology offered new possibilities they had never considered. "If we combine your crystalline storage systems with our quantum dots," Walker said, sketching on a tablet, "we could double the efficiency of solar power worldwide." Tom Reed rushed into the room, excitement clear on his face. "You need to see this," he said, pulling up news feeds on the main screen. "It's happening everywhere." The screen showed scenes from around the world. Solar power companies were already adapting the converter technology for civilian use. Research labs were studying the Bright One's crystalline technology. But most surprisingly, countries that had been rivals for centuries were now working together. "Your rescue mission," First Light observed, "it has changed more than just our fate." In the following days, the changes became even clearer. The United Nations called an emergency session to establish the first comprehensive laws for alien refugee protection. Space agencies worldwide began coordinating their efforts to create a unified response system for future cosmic emergencies. Walker found herself in high demand, giving presentations to scientific committees about the breakthrough technologies developed during the rescue. But she always started each talk the same way, by crediting the cooperation between humans and the Bright Ones. "We didn't just save them," she would say. "They helped us become better. Their presence showed us what we could achieve when we worked together." The Bright Ones, now recovered and fully powered, began sharing their vast knowledge. Their understanding of light and energy opened new possibilities in medicine, communications, and space travel. But they were most impressed by something humans took for granted: your ability to unite in crisis. First Light told Miller during a diplomatic meeting, "To put aside differences and help strangers. This is rare in the galaxy. Many species we encountered were advanced, but few showed such humanity." The word humanity took on new meaning across Earth. Children in schools learned about the rescue mission as an example of their species' best qualities. The image of the glowing crystal ships became a symbol of hope and unity. 1 month after the rescue, representatives from Earth's nations gathered at the newly established Space Cooperation Center in Geneva. On the agenda, the creation of a permanent emergency response fleet for space rescue operations. "We may have started this mission to save one species," Miller said in his address to the assembly, "but we ended up proving something to ourselves. When we work together, nothing is impossible." Outside the center, a new monument was unveiled, a crystal and metal sculpture showing human and alien hands reaching toward each other. At night, it glowed with the same beautiful light as the rescued ships, a permanent reminder of what humanity could achieve. The Bright Ones had chosen to maintain their orbit around Earth, their ships now a regular sight in the night sky. They called it their gratitude vigil, a constant reminder that in their darkest hour they had found light in human kindness. Earth had changed. The world had glimpsed a better version of itself, one where cooperation replaced competition, where helping others was more important than political boundaries. Humanity had united not in fear of the unknown, but in the desire to help it. 5 years had passed since the Great Rescue. The Horizon, now upgraded with both human and Bright One technology, cruised through the solar system on its regular patrol route. Captain Miller stood on its bridge, just as he had done that historic day when they first detected the distress signal. Captain Tom Reed called from his station, now Chief of Communications. "We're receiving the anniversary broadcast from Earth." The main screen lit up with images from around the world. The Space Cooperation Center in Geneva was hosting the 5th annual Unity Day celebrations. Crystal towers, built using Bright One architecture, sparkled in major cities worldwide. They served as both power stations and reminders of humanity's finest moment. Ann Walker, now director of Earth Bright One Technologies, appeared on screen addressing a mixed audience of humans and Bright Ones. 5 years ago, we faced an impossible challenge. Today, that challenge has become our greatest achievement. She gestured to the display behind her, showing the latest statistics. Global energy efficiency had increased by 300% thanks to the combined technologies. Space rescue operations had saved 3 other alien species from various disasters. Earth's first true interstellar ship was nearly complete, built with knowledge shared by the Bright Ones. "Quite a change from when we first met," First Light said, now a permanent ambassador aboard the Horizon. Its glow was strong and steady, like all its people now. "Though I notice humans still drink too much coffee." Miller laughed. It was true. Some things hadn't changed, but so much had. The Bright Ones had established permanent settlements on Earth, their crystalline structures adding new beauty to human cities. Their children played together in special parks where light and water created magical displays. "Incoming priority message," Reed announced. "Deep space sensors have detected another distress signal. 3 light years out." The bridge crew straightened in their seats. This was why they were here. The Horizon was now Earth's primary rescue vessel, specially equipped for any emergency. "Analysis," Miller asked. "Unknown species. Their drive system is failing. They're asking for help." Reed paused, checking the data. "Sir, they're carrying refugees. Almost 1,000 people." First Light moved to the science station, its glow brightening with purpose. "Their energy signature is similar to the drift clouds we encountered in our travels. We know their biology." Miller nodded, already making decisions. "Alert Earth Command. Walker will want to adapt our rescue equipment. Plot an intercept course." He turned to his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that had been there 5 years ago. "Let's show them what humanity does best." Back on Earth, the Unity Day celebrations took on new meaning as news of the rescue mission spread. In schools, children learned about the growing list of species that Earth had helped. The term "guardians of the lost" had stuck. Other civilizations now sent their distress calls directly to Earth, knowing humans would come. In orbit, the original 15 crystal ships maintained their vigil, but they were no longer alone. A steady stream of vessels from various species now visited Earth, seeking trade, knowledge, or simply to meet the species that had earned a reputation for helping strangers. Walker stood in her lab at the Space Cooperation Center, looking at a hologram of the galaxy. Hundreds of points of light marked known civilizations. Lines connected them, showing trade routes, diplomatic relations, and rescue missions. At the center of this growing network was Earth. "We wondered why we found you," First Light said, joining her at the display. "Why, of all the stars, our failing ships drifted to yours. Now we know." Walker looked at the alien she now considered a close friend. "Oh, why's that?" "Because the galaxy needed humanity. Not for your technology or your resources," First Light's glow pulsed warmly, "but for your heart, your instinct to help others, no matter the cost. You showed us all a better way." Above them, the Horizon jumped to faster than light speed, carrying Earth's message of hope to another species in need. The legacy of that first rescue continued to grow, one saved life at a time. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest or competition, but through compassion. In helping others, they had helped themselves become more than they ever dreamed possible. The stars were no longer just points of light in the sky. They were beacons of opportunity, chances to prove, again and again, that humanity's greatest strength was its capacity to care.